The very first area I'm going to paint in my landscape is the sky or background, and to do this I am going to create washes of color that are brighter at the top of my canvas and more light and neutralized toward that horizon line. Remember, this is what atmospheric perspective does to color as we see it from a distance. Then I'm going to layer in different colors to represent the clouds. I'm going to recreate that effect for you now. To create a wash, you thin your paint with water. To blend one color into another seamlessly, which is also called an ombre or gradation, you take a clean, dry brush, and where those two different values meet, you use that dry brush to blend the colors together so that there is no seam between them. You can also use a clean, dry rag as a blending tool by using a circular motion and scrubbing out that color. This can also be used to create your clouds. When you layer thick white paint or any other color that you need for your clouds, you can use that rag to blend and feather out the color so that you recreate some of those wispy effects that you may see in your reference image. This is a really useful way to create layers in your painting while also working fairly quickly, because when you've got your wet paint, you can blend into that wet paint. You can see here that I've made the mountain range in my background a little too dark. Those values need to be lighter so that they fade into my sky, so I repainted them. Now I'm going to go back in and do a little bit more work with those clouds so that you can see how I use my brush to strategically layer in more of the white paint and then use my rag to pull that white paint and feather it into the paint that I already have on my board here. Now I'm going to start my middle ground, and I'm going to simplify it into one main value and keep that one detail up at the top, which is that little castle. Now it's time to tackle the water. Water is clear and is essentially a reflection of the colors that are in the sky. So to start my water, I'm going to create a gradation of light to darker values as the water gets closer to me. So it's lightest near the middle ground and then darker towards me. And remember, I'm using washes of color. I'm letting that paint dry, and while it's drying, I'm creating all the details in the dock over on my left. And now I'm going to put in some of those shadows that are underneath, under all of those piers. And to do that, I am being very strategic with the way that I paint this. I'm using a horizontal brush stroke, and I'm working with lots and lots of shades of that blue-green. And I'm placing them where I see them more or less in my reference image, but I'm not worried about getting them perfect. I just want to create the gist of each of those little shadows. And I'm not doing much blending. Again, I'm using the brush strokes to create that effect and letting the paint do the work for me. Then I'm going to eventually put in some really light tints that are similar in value to where my water is the lightest to show the highlights that are in the water as well. And those are created when the sun hits the water and reflects. So you can see that really light water there is being repeated here to show all of those highlights in my water. And I just put some here and there.